But my primary concern is, what if the news breaks during my show? What do I
Oh
do?
yeah, what do you
So
do? Yeah.
yeah, so it's that protocol. And as a brand community, we've got mixed views as a community about the monarchy, the British monarchy, and it's about dealing with all those sensitivities. And I had to immediately think about all of that, how to navigate that if that was going to happen in my show, but also get everything ready for the show just in case. So I was in a kind of panic about that, to be honest. And throughout the show, I was really tense, had the news like on the side just in case it broke during the show. Even though I should get some details from the station manager what you're supposed to do, but I knew he wasn't there. So it was a kind of a weird thing. And the news didn't break during the show, but I got home, walked in, sat down with my cup of tea, turned the TV on. Within 3 minutes, the news broke. And it was like, okay. And again, that evening, I don't think it really sunk in the sense that lots of people going, oh my God, because this sounds really sad. It's work for me. It was like kind of clients going, okay, what do we do now? What do we do now? What do we do now? And I think I was supposed to go out. My cousins were here from California. We were all supposed to get out together. And I missed that cousin gathering because I ended up having to work. And now I was sitting till 2 o'clock in the morning, writing, emailing, messaging people, giving advice. And it was kind of a whole weird scenario. So that was like Thursday. And again, obviously I had the news on throughout because I had to make sure I knew what was going on as well. So you have that work thing, really. It felt like, it's sad, but it generates work for me to do. And it was that whole, I think that whole of Thursday, I slept at 2 o'clock in the morning, and it was just intense getting stuff out there. Even now, constantly working. What do we have to do here? How do I navigate that there for this client? What do I do here? It's been like that. But mixed. Personally, how I felt, like it's sad. I think I posted pretty much immediately to say, for me personally, she's a remarkable woman, and I know like lots of people all over the world were mourning her. And I think I've got criticized for saying that.
This is what I was going to say, actually, because we obviously 3 women of South Asian descent, Indian women living in the UK, in England, right? So this is our spin on it, and it is quite a controversial thing. And by the way, I just want to say to everybody who is actually tuned in, if you're tuned in, we weren't live before, we are now. It was when I was saying hello, I hadn't actually pressed to go live, so first time we're doing this. So a few issues, we'll get there in the end. But yeah, you're right, that some people were actually posted straight away. See how you posted straight away, and it was quite an emotional thing. Some other people posted straight away, and it was quite negative. It was things like, oh, you know what, she wasn't really a queen to me, or all I think about is colonialism, and why didn't she never return our Kohinoor diamond? And I'm talking about quite actual high profile people saying this kind of thing.
Oh wow, I haven't seen any.
Have you not?
No, I have clearly.
Oh wow,
move in the right circles.
Try Twitter.
No, thank you.
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
Thank you.
But,
exactly. Oh no, I have no idea. So tell. Like what have people been saying?
I mean, I posted that, and I worded it extremely carefully, because sovereign in Sikhi, something else, that's Guru Maharaj always. And that's, I understand that. But there's leaders in the world. And for me, she was a remarkable woman. You can't take that away from her and what she's done and how she's navigated society. And when it comes to monarchy, we had monarchy in India, in Punjab, where things are passed down from father to son as well, right? So monarchy exists in other lands as well, including our motherland. However we see our motherland, whether it's, pre-colonial India, which is how I see it still. But yeah, for me, it was just a sad occasion, somebody passing away. And my faith also teaches us to be respectful of that. And so I think it was, and we're born and brought up in this country. It doesn't mean you were just by sharing a condolence. It doesn't mean we're ignoring everything else that came before.
Exactly.
And I think so. People, so it was. But I think I navigated some of the responses I got, and I was like, literally, read what I've written. How is it offensive to anybody?
The thing is, it's okay to actually.
No.
Like it's okay to show sadness at the death of anyone.
Well, anytime a hearse goes by in the street, in the road, I don't know. I always stop and like nod my head, bow, or whatever. Or at the end of the day, that's a departing soul from this earth that you're paying respect to. It doesn't matter who it is. If there's a hearse going by, I'll always do it, whether I'm in the car or whether. And how is this any different in that way? You don't know that person in the hearse when it's another family, or you just feel for the family. And at the end of the day, the humans, for me, it's a human thing. When it came to discussing the Kohinoor and things like that, I have really mixed views. And, there might be unpopular opinions. Like, who do you give it back to right now? It's been, who do you give it back to? What are they going to do with it? Here, we get to see it. We know where it is. We know it's safe. We all get to see it. What's going to happen if it goes back? Who does it go to? Blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. And it's like, there's loads of questions to be had about that. And it's like, I don't know. There are, so for me, it's confused feelings. But at the same time, I will never take, I will never not you feel like I can't pay my respect to a woman who led with dignity. And I think having a sovereign who was female for that long,
absolutely,
in the society that we live in, was important because she was feminine. She wasn't masculine in her approach to her role and her duty. And I think the way she reigned with the feminine qualities that she had, which you can already not see in King Charles now, where you hear him grumbling and moaning. You heard her grumbling and moaning as an older woman, where you go, oh, that's just a granny moaning now. But, but already you can, you see that in King Charles, but again, you think he's mourning, he's probably tired.
Did you see that? Did you see the video clip of him?
There's two
about I saw this one about the pen. He was signing something in Northern Ireland.
The inkwell, the proclamation. I think
this bloody stinking thing or whatever.
That was the Ireland one. Yesterday.
And it leaked. It was leaking, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
You could lip read that pretty much. It wasn't very.
But I heard the audio of it, and it was.
Oh, did you?
It was audio. Funny, but you're like, what? Like, does he know that this was broadcast? I don't get it. He himself is 73. He's not some kind of
exactly.
The Queen was what, 20 something when she became the Queen, right? He's 73. Like, is as in like he's an old man now, so he's got.
Of course, so he's got that maybe
on,
that grumpy thing going on as well, possibly. But it's like, I don't know. But there's that feminine quality because you saw how Camilla then dealt with it afterwards when she handled him like it's okay, and she did her thing, and it was it was that kind of thing. And that's what I mean in terms of feminine and masculine energy brought to the role. Like the Queen on an important day, she would have never done that, on a exactly.
It's like, I feel a bit like if you're a royalist or whatever, right, and whatever you think about the royal family, the Queen herself, she never really got embroiled in any kind of personal controversy, never put a foot wrong, was just like the absolute epitome of like good manners and elegance, gracefulness, all those kind of things, right? Every interaction that she had with people. And I don't know what happened to me last night, like not last night, but a couple of nights ago, I literally got obsessed with watching programs about the Queen and how she was like, and people meeting her, and I was literally sitting there. And when you accidentally like click onto something on TV, if you're watching normal TV, so that's what happened. And I was there like 2 hours later, like watching all these people saying, oh, you know what? this is what she was like, and this is how she spoke to me, and always making people feel good. And that's a really, for 70 years, I mean, yes, she's a human being, but that's actually quite a good thing and a positive thing, you know. So I know some people were just like, oh, well, what was the point of her and stuff. I mean, I have got some things here, which I will say in a minute, about how she was a game changer in ways. But I do want to say, which is really important, that we all were born and grew up in a time when we were little where we had the Queen. So she was the only monarch that we ever knew. There was Margaret Thatcher. Whatever you thought of her, she was the prime minister at that time when we were kids. And then in India at the same time was Indira Gandhi. Now, okay, they're very controversial figures, but I'm just saying from a young girl's point of view, that's what I saw around me, women in those roles. And I think that is quite a big deal, especially for that time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, definitely relate to Margaret Thatcher, and because we saw her on TV, and obviously the Queen saw her on TV. Not so much with Indira Gandhi, but I think maybe we were a bit too. Maybe we were quite young then. I don't really. Yeah, we were young, and not so much with her, just because visibility, right? She wasn't in my daily sort of whatever. But yeah, it's nice to see. I say to the girls, you know, they're very lucky, or all my children, that they're very lucky that they had the Queen for as long as they did, a female monarch, which now for 3 generations isn't going to happen, you know. So I think that was really important that for us and for, you know, our children, that they've had, you know, such a role model icon. You know, she was just there.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So we got a comment. I think that King Charles III will definitely bring his own personality to the role of being king.
Well, I hope so. You know, he's the longest prince in waiting. Is he? He has that record. He's been waiting the longest to become the monarch. And I think somebody said yesterday on the TV, actually, whilst they were, I think when he was in Ireland, that said that he's had the best teacher, certainly, in his mother. But you know, we've had years of him being quite open about his feelings and opinions and his knowledge on the climate and all that kind of stuff. And I hope, you know, it's going to be a reduced capacity in what he can now comment on, but certainly I think his climate change stuff doesn't change. But yeah, he will bring his own spin on things, and he should. You can't imitate the Queen, can you?
No, and nobody should ever try to do that.
I think the monarchy needs it to move on. I'm hoping he'll perhaps modernize it a bit, you know, a bit more. I mean, the Queen was already doing that, but perhaps he will continue that as well.
I think,
yeah,
as well, that I think over the last few days, watching the proclamations and understanding stuff, like most of us have never seen a coronation take place. And again, a lot of the ceremonial stuff that happened was never ever televised for people who did watch it last time. And watching it, and despite doing lots of bits of work within people in government and stuff like that, it's like the things like the Privy Council, I always knew what it was there for, but to see the Privy Council and have it explained again like that to the whole world, what it does, and you understand how much more people do. But the other thing is, it's for me, like, I wouldn't have called myself, I appreciate what their roles are, whatever, it's not a big deal to me, but I wouldn't really call myself a monarchist. I think I'm indifferent to it in that sense.
I think the same. I'm the same.
Yeah, I'm indifferent to it because stuff like this happens all over the world. It doesn't matter whatever it is, whether it's a monarch, whether it's a presidency, anyway. But I think what I did appreciate over the last couple of days, with having a monarchy, and I'm not talking about appreciating the monarchy or our monarchy, I'm talking about just having a monarchy, is that seamless transition. We've got a monarch who's passed away. There's no fighting or arguments. We're allowed, like, the country is allowed to mourn in dignity while the handover happens smoothly. It's all that there's been all that sort of that transition planning has already been done. Everyone knows what they've got to do next. And that, I think, with a monarchy, and I think that's something we've never appreciated, whereas in other lands and other countries, this would immediately break out in like, okay, while some people are trying to mourn, other people are trying to argue about who should lead the country next. And sometimes there's warfare, sometimes there's this happen, sometimes there's that happen, you know, all those things. And I think that that peaceful manner in which we have that transition is something that I actually don't mind. I don't mind not having those arguments. And yeah, and it's, I think it's just the manner. Like sometimes, yeah, in democracy, maybe you do want to choose who your next leader is, but the process of how it happens, it just takes away from the farewell, you know, dignified farewell, shall we say, at this point in time. And it was interesting to see in Parliament when they were having those sessions of tribute to hear people share their thoughts on the Queen, their anecdotes, and seeing the whole of Parliament in unity rather than at each other, and not just here in England but up in Scotland as well, where they were doing that, where people would usually be screaming and shouting at each other, do that. And I think that was interesting for me to kind of suddenly realize, kind of like, do you know something, there is a process here, there is a reasoning maybe here for doing things this way. And I understand why some people appreciate that. But I appreciated the peaceful manner in which, I mean, even in our families, you know, with brown people, and brown people can probably identify with the monarchy. I've said this over and over again.
It's like that.
We identify with the monarchy more than most communities would, right? Just because of the way the things are in our community. And there's that, you know, who's gonna get the house, who's gonna get this, you know, come on, let's not even pretend that doesn't happen in our community, right? Let's not pretend. Okay, oh no, Amelia, he's got this, I wanted this, and
I mean,
right, exactly, all that stuff happens, right? But look how they've handled it, and look how we handle it. Do you know what I'm saying? You know, it's that kind of.
Also, don't you notice that, like, it's our parents' generation and grandparents' generation, despite, okay, you know, British Raj and colonialism and all that, a lot of them were obsessed with the royal family. A lot of them, and it's not only South Asian people. Like I've seen like some African people also, like really into the monarchy, like, oh my God, you know, the Queen and all this. Like, despite all of that, it's a real thing.
It surprises me as well sometimes. Yeah. Go on, Rummy.
I was just going to say, like, if Putin can send his condolences at this time, I think, you know,
we all can.
We all flipping bloody well can, can't we? I think we need to. I mean, I'm just separating who she was as a female to all that, you know, all the arguments about politics and you know British Raj and colonialism and the crown jewels and all that kind of stuff. Just celebrating her for the late, you know,
yesterday,
the work that she did, and you know, her visibility and yeah, just all the good that she did, and her husband as well.
If they can use power for good, that's what's important, I think. And I mean, yesterday, like you mentioned that I went down. I was in London yesterday, and I was going to come home, and I was there. I was in walking distance from where the hearse was going to pass. So I was just like, you know, to the people I was with, I'm like, shall we just wander down? We wandered down, and we got literally a prime spot. I think I sent you guys the video. And we were just there, and we had a police officer in front of us who was laughing and joking with us. And we actually were standing next to a press officer. So it was like proper luck. So we were hearing all the news, everything as it was coming in on the radios. But it was like a strange, because I didn't think I'd necessarily feel anything, and I'm not there to be like, I wasn't there. I was just, it was a moment in history.
That's
the
what
whole
I'm
world's
saying.
watching, right?
It is a historical moment, right?
It was a historical moment. Whatever it means to anybody, it's a historical moment that you're part of, whether you're winning or losing a war. you're part of it, right? Whatever, however you want to see it, you're a part of it. Whether I choose, I'm British. I can't choose to not be British. I am British, right? I can't take that label away from me. I've got to accept that I am. I'm born here. I can't help that. That's what's happened in, you know. But anyway, so I was there. I was there in that moment. I shared in that moment. I didn't think I'd feel anything in that moment, but it was really surreal. Like when we were waiting, there were a couple of moments where I was like, oh my God. It's like, it did feel like, I remember when my grandmother passed away and we were waiting for them to bring her home. And I think that's always the worst bit for me, to know this is the last time she's going to come home. I'm going to like get emotional now, but thinking of my gran. But it's that moment where you think, oh my God, this is her last journey to her house tonight before she goes wherever. And it's not even the emotion of that person. It's just the human element of it.
Yeah, and I think so many people have been, it's like a death of their own loved one, and unfortunately, a lot of us have gone through a lot of that in the last few years. We've lost elderly relatives, and I think people just relate it back to that, just exactly like you're saying. It felt like your own grandma coming home, it and her coming back to her home, which was really sad as well. Actually, that I was quite choked last night when I was watching that. But yeah, I think people are relating it to, like, lots of people on the radio said, oh, it just reminds me of like when my granny died, or my grandpop died, or it does have those, just evoke those sorts
what
of
it
feelings.
is, it's like, this is the thing, and it's and this is the thing that I don't get with people about, so when they talk about sovereign and Sikhi and everything like that, if as a good Sikh you feel we're humanitarian, and this is for me as a Sikh, we're about humanity and humanity to all. And at the end of the day, when someone passes, when someone passes away, we all grieve, and it's recognizing that we all grieve, and whether we're grieving or whether we're empathizing with somebody else that's grieving, that's something that's a human thing. It's not a religious thing as such. But we have these, we have words in Gurbani to help us through that period. So if Guru recognizes that, then we should recognize it in everybody else. And it's for me, it's like, you're doing that, and that's why it's no different. Her house is just bigger than mine. Her house is just bigger than my grandmother's, right? But she's still going through the same process. She's got a few more people attending a funeral, and it's going on for a bit longer, but it's still the same process.
You know what, though? I feel like for a lot of people, you did feel like she was kind of like a grandma type figure, because she was always there. Like, hello, we celebrated the Platinum Jubilee, 70 years. Okay. And I don't know how many people, when they had a street party in their street, said, you know what? I'm not joining in, and I'm not having your sausage rolls and Scotch eggs, because I don't believe in this because of colonialism. I don't know how many people said that, because when it comes to like having a nice little, have a little Pims with everybody and whatever, I bet people did, because it was okay, we're celebrating and stuff like that. I doubt people said that. But anyway, what I'm saying is she was always there, and we celebrated 70 years, and she's just one of those people that was just, you grew up with. And I think that's where I feel, oh, my middle daughter, when she was about 5 or 6, it's so cute. She said, she saw something about the Queen on TV, and she was just like, she's so nice. The Queen's so nice. And then she was like, when she dies, she's just going to become an angel. I know. I reminded her of that the other day. So cute.
But I unashamedly went to the Jubilee party and had a whale of a time.
Why
not? It was a free party. We went down to the Mall and had an absolute whale of a time, especially when they started off with that whole Paddington Bear thing. And it was just like, I was like, well, why not? It's a free party you put on for all of us.
Like you said, we live in this country, and sometimes it is quite conflicting, when you think about history and that kind of thing. Obviously, the Queen herself wasn't, didn't take a hold of India or whatever, but you do feel those conflicting things about Commonwealth. You do hear of people who are refused OBEs and things like that because of
that's
that
fine.
reason.
I understand that totally.
Yeah.
I think it is a really conflicting thing, and it's a conflicting thing. I always think if somebody ever said to me, "Would you accept an OBE?" I'd be like, I don't know, because the word empire and
That's
is
it.
it's got so many. I mean, we've just done 75 years of partition, and for me that was stupidly painful, right? It was stupidly painful, but like, I think as soon as you start labeling things, you start ignoring things. Like, if somebody wants to label me as I'm a British Punjabi Sikh woman, right? But if I'm just a Punjabi woman, you ignore other things. People only start seeing you as that label, and everyone is more than what you're labeled, right? There's more to you. But if you start labeling people, or if you start labeling things, you forget all those other bits that you should also be paying attention to. And I mean, I'm a British person. Why am I not going to take the good? If a good is a street party and
Why are you
having a
here then,
laugh,
innit?
pardon?
It's like, you don't want to take the good. Why are we here?
I'm
Do you
not
get what I
going
mean?
to. Yeah, I will challenge the bad. I do challenge the bad, but I take the good as well. So if I'm going to have a free street party thrown to me and I'm in town, why am I not going to go? I had a whale of a time. Do you know what I'm saying? It was a laugh, and
Yeah.
we came back, and it wasn't like I wasn't standing there going, Queen, Queen, Queen. I was like going, this is a great concert. But why, why am I going to deny myself a chance to have a good time if it's there for
But
me?
not even that. Like, I feel like, okay, the Queen, whatever you think, whether you're a royalist or not, as I've said before, like, she has been an iconic figure, right? And a queen, that role of a woman for so long in this country, and the whole world is obsessed with the royal family of England. Like, a lot of people, Americans, oh my God, right? There's a lot of
That's
it
because
still
it's like a
speaks to
huge soap, though.
well, it is, but
Mm.
also it's like, like I said, there's good things about her as well. And these are a few things where she was, I feel like, a game changer in her own way. So she was the first female member of the royal family to serve in the military. Like, she was a trained mechanic. I think that's quite cool. In 2013, she gave royal assent to the Succession of the Crown Act. So that's making sure that a younger son could no longer displace an elder daughter in the line of succession,
Mm.
which I can't believe that it took that long to change that. But oh no, my face is frozen on there. Okay, never mind. Oh God, and what a horrible expression that I'm making. Oh God, I hope my camera sorts itself out soon. Anyway, you can still hear me, so fine. Um, so yeah, and then, like, like things like, apparently, like, a Saudi king or somebody, she insisted on taking them for a ride in her Land Rover because she knew that, in where he's from, women are not allowed to drive. So it was just like a little point like that. I don't know, she couldn't do that much, and she didn't do that much. But even like charities, I feel like she did do a lot for charity, and there was like more than 600 charities spanning loads of different things that she actually was associated with. So that's always a good thing as well. So I feel like, okay, let's just look at these things as well.
I
Um,
think I've got to say her sense of humor and her feisty and fieriness, which was kind of always subdued but bubbling underneath, that you always got, and you sometimes got that little quip of humor from her.
mm,
It was always funny, and it kind of, because she was the same age. I talked about Manji, and Manji was the same age as her, and we used to like laugh about the both of them being like kind of twin souls. But I don't know if it was just something about that generation. Rena, are you still there? Because you're now
yeah,
blinking
no,
on
no,
and
no.
off.
I just
I
switched
was
it off
like,
in the hope that I could
okay.
actually
Trying to get rid of that
trying to get
expression.
rid of that stupid expression. Listen, I look really nice at the moment, right? And I don't know why my face is frozen like that.
That's an action shot. That's an action shot. It's fine.
It's action shot. See, look, now
But
my husband is so like, oh my God, my wife can't be seen like this. So he's come to help me to sort it
oh,
out.
bless. But I just think that sense of humor that they had, but the thing that I think maybe that was people of that generation with that can-do attitude, like regardless of the fact that she's a queen and she's a monarch and they led a privileged life.
Mm,
I think they were still born in an age where they saw bombing, where they saw things that most of us, luckily, in this country haven't seen with
Mm.
our own
yeah.
eyes or haven't felt ourselves. Whereas, even as princess as she was then, she actually physically went out, saw these things, took part. Even you might think, some people might say it as a, as a mechanic, she probably still led a privileged whatever in the army, but she still saw it, and she still appreciated what she saw. And I think possibly that's something that with that whole generation, whether it's my other people's grandparents, great grandparents, whatever it is, there's something about that generation that lived through those times. Their attitude to life is just different. And regardless of being the queen and a monarch, I think she still had that, just like our grandparents might have had.
Apparently she saved up like her clothing ration coupons to get her wedding dress. I read the other day. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I read the other day, because it was at that time that she got married. But I just want to move away from just talking about, you know, how we felt about that now. And I kind of just started thinking about like the whole thing about a queen and what we think is a queen. And nowadays everyone's like, oh, you queen, yes, queen, all this, great, okay. But for us, like, okay, so this was the queen, the sovereign of England, right? What about other women in our lives who we think, for us, they are like a queen? You know, there's somebody who we look up to and admire, and we think, you know what, they always do the right thing, they've got it together. Like, so who is that for you guys?
I don't know. I don't know. I think I don't call anyone a queen. I'm not woke enough to call anyone queen, I don't think.
Yeah,
I am. I'm pretty like forward thinking, whatever, but I don't use terms like that lightly. I don't want to use terms like that lightly. Obviously, my queen, I talk about my Manju all the time. You know, but again, she had her faults too. And I think, you know, as long as you recognize those things, to me, everyone's just human. And I don't use that term lightly. I think it's crass.
Well, I think
queen sometimes.
I don't think it's crass. I think it's really nice.
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, that is quite a powerful statement that, you know, she's my queen. Some people say about their moms, you know, this is my queen. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a position that you put someone in your life, like you put them on a pedestal. Like it is hard, like you said, you know, with human beings, everybody has their flaws. You know, as we grow, we look at our parents and kind of get things why they did what they did and think, oh, okay, maybe you didn't approach this the right way or whatever. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that we lose respect for them. Well, it doesn't for me.
No.
It's like, okay, you're a human being, so it's hard to put someone on that pedestal. I know this sounds really weird though, but like I actually feel like for a lot of people, Beyonce is the equivalent of a queen to them, because they put her on such a pedestal of, even to the fact, I've said this, we had a podcast before, didn't we, Akira, ages ago, about feminist icons and how loads of people think
RBG, yep.
Beyonce, yeah. So, and a lot of people think that Beyonce is like, oh, you know, she's a queen, and like, what would Beyonce do? Oh my God, everything's going wrong in my life. What would Beyonce do? What would Beyonce do? And honestly, the amount of people that do that, it's a thing. So, but
I think she's the only other one though, right? It's only really Queen Bee. That's the only other queen I know.
But that's because of the Queen Bee. But I think there are other women, like we talked about RBG just now,
and
that's why we're talking.
Of course, there's other women.
There's so many other women, but I'm just saying why I called it crass was, I think any queen that you want to call a queen, I think that's a term that shouldn't be used lightly. You could compare like I've got friends, like, you know, a lot of American friends do it. When I just tell them like, well, I'm not listening to you, blah, 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 this is the way we're doing stuff. Like, you know, people in our, like, people I work with, and they're like, go on, queen. I'm like, please don't call me that. It's like they just do it all the time. And for me, using that term lightly in that way, I don't like it. I don't think that's what I mean when I say it's used too often and it gets too crass. For everyone to be a queen is just ego feeding. And I just, I've got too many egos in the world. I think I need less of them. And that's what Queen Elizabeth II was good at. I think she didn't show that she had any kind of ego.
Yeah.
Despite being queen. And I think that's the difference for me.
She might have though. Like, this is the thing.
She might have.
And this
didn't show it.
I know, but this is a similarity between Beyonce and the Queen, right? Like Queen Elizabeth II. No, you know what?
Okay,
You know
here
what?
we go.
Listen, I know this sounds really mad and weird, okay? But the fact that they are people who seem to get it all right, okay? You know, Beyonce seems to get it right all the time. Obviously, you can't touch her. She's up there. Seems to have it, to know what she's doing in life, and have it all worked out, and never puts a foot wrong. But you don't know them, and they don't reveal that much of themselves, because there are celebrities who will, do, for example, an Insta live crying, "Oh my God, I felt so bad about this," or whatever. You don't get that from Beyonce. It's a very kind of carefully curated image, as was the Queen. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. That's why you think, "Oh my God, there's this glossy kind of image, never put foot wrong.
But
She's up
that's
there."
equality. I think that's what dignity is, though, isn't it? Not
Yeah, but we don't.
oversharing.
Yes, that's so true. And in the age of oversharing, the rest of us are like the peasants who do overshare, and the royalty, Queen Bee and actual royalty, don't perhaps. But I was looking through this thing the other day about like influential women. I think it was like some Women's Day post or something like this. And different women who are seen as queens for whatever reason. So then they had these are just a couple of people on the list. So Lizzo, basically. So she's spoken out about loads of different things, body shaming, institutional racism in the music industry, how, she's encouraged people all over the world to embrace self-love. And then Meghan Markle, controversially, was on that list as well. Like, because just how her portraying that happily ever after and marrying into royalty doesn't have to mean the same for everybody. Like, just putting herself first, speaking out about things like racism, how she's got this 40-40-40-40 campaign, which asks people around the world to spend 40 minutes of their time mentoring women, re-entering the workforce. So those are just like really good things. So that's what, and I thought, you know what? Fair enough. They're good things that they've done. But yes, okay, these are flawed women who we're very aware of their flaws. You
So
know what I mean?
a queen means something different to everybody, and for me, I just, like I said, I just don't use the term lightly, I guess.
Mm.
There's great women. I think those are the queens in our lives, the ones that we can learn lessons from, the ones who conduct themselves with dignity. What I think is also dignifying about this queen is, maybe if her ancestors were alive, there might have been, her father, ignoring her father, but if her ancestors were alive, would they be happy with what she's done? She's returned half of the empire, right? She's relinquished half of the empire. But the thing is, and this is again, like, people in the brown community, Punjabi community, Sikh community listening to me might differ in opinion to me, but I think there's a dignity in the fact that she said, it's about the people. If you want your republic, you can have it, but let's
Yeah,
do it nicely. Let's do it without war. Let's do it without whatever. Here you are, have it back. Now, for somebody who's leading an empire, and again, she's slowly switched that term empire to commonwealth, and I hope at some point we stop using the word empire,
Mm.
and understand that, and so I think for a monarch, for a leader, like, you got Putin on the other hand, who's trying to gain territory as a leader, but here's the queen giving back territory and actually listening to what people want. But she's
yeah,
doing it in a measured, she's done it in a measured way. She's allowing people to have their choice, and you hear Prince King Charles say that in his speech as well. And I think he's pretty prepared for other people, other countries, to become, republic countries, and relinquish the monarchy in their country. I think they're, as a monarchy, they're pretty prepared for that. And I think they're prepared for that, and they're willing to do it, is something positive.
yeah,
What happens in those countries afterwards, I think we also, at the end of the day, we can't cry over spilt milk. sometimes. What's happened has happened, but we also have to take responsibility for mending stuff. And a lot of people who came back to me, well, I probably got 2 or 3 people who just was like, when I put the post out, literally like, really, you're a Punjabi Sikh woman, aren't you? And I was like, yes. And I literally wrote why I've written it. And I didn't have to justify myself to them, but at the end of the day, I just want them to understand what I've done. And then my point is, obviously, with what I've been through as well, I can't, when you've been wronged and someone's damaged your life, locking them up, doing something with them isn't going to repair that damage in your life. You've got to do something towards it as well. You can't, it's never going to be what it was. And so as, we have to take responsibility ourselves right now. But I think just the way that she's given back land, given back to countries, listen to the people, and then she still in most cases has a relationship with those countries where they still respect her. That's a big thing that I think we need to understand. And I think if there's bitterness on our part, if somebody's holding out an olive branch, we've got to hold out an olive branch too. But it doesn't mean you're not careful. You can be careful. You can have your guard up. But if somebody's holding out an olive branch, do you hold out an olive branch too? I prefer that approach to fighting.
Yeah, of course.
I don't know if that's, again, the feminine in us, that I'd always prefer a peaceful approach than an aggressive approach. But I would always prefer a peaceful approach to an aggressive approach. And I'm not somebody who's, So I think that's quite dignifying about what she's done in the 70 years and how many lands that, if you count the countries that the empire has, quote, empire has lost, it's, and she's kept the respect still.
It's a good point, actually. It's a good point. I think, like you said, this whole, we look at her like, oh yeah, she was very feminine and she was in this position for a long time, and like how you have said that she seems like she kind of moved with the times in a way. So yeah, they're all good points. But like, as we were saying about the whole queens and who is a queen for us, and I think if we're trying to find some woman who is, oh my god, she's perfect in every way, powerful, loving, this, that, there is nobody, okay? Because we're human beings. I mean, I don't know, Rummy, is there someone that you would think, okay, that's my queen, this is who I look up to, or not even this is my queen, but just this is a woman who I revere and I want to carry on their legacy?
Yeah, there's a few people in my family that I definitely feel like that towards. Like, I feel like my mum is really inspirational. She does a lot of charity work. She's a pillar in her community. She is a mini queen, actually. She is, she's got a big house. But no, her as a person,
she's a queen, mate. Yeah.
She's a queen. No, not, but she's inspiring to me. So when I feel a little bit like, okay, I put a bit down, and I always think, actually, what would my mummy do? What would she do? And I ring her and I get advice from her, and yeah, she's that person for me. My mum too, she's also that person to me. I don't really look at her and go, oh yeah, she's a queen, but I just think I don't really use that word, doesn't come into my head. That's maybe just,
that's the thing.
I get what, the word, I don't think, I haven't really felt that, but definitely sort of a female champion who, I look up to, and, want advice from, is an example. We'll talk to my children about, if you need advice, go to these people, all this sort of stuff, if they don't want to talk to me. And yeah, there are definitely those people in my life. I don't necessarily see them as queens, but they are sort of female champions.
So how would you then respond to, like, so this is like just like flipping the queen, like how would you respond to, like, so many people that turn around, but you didn't know her, you didn't meet the queen, like the queen, who just passed away. How would you respond to that? Like, how can you feel that about her? Because you can't go and talk to her whenever you want. So how do you have all these feelings and emotions towards that person?
Of course we don't know the ins and outs of her life, but we know we've been watching programs, and how she came into sort of as a young girl, found herself in this situation where her uncle abdicated and all that kind of stuff. It is an image that we've been given, we isn't it, right? What we know about the Queen is watching what we learn at school, when we see them on TV and, people explaining all this kind of stuff. We have sort of soaked that in and no, I don't pretend to think, to know that and there's been periods of my life where I've not thought so highly of the Queen. I felt like, when Diana died, I felt like not just the Queen, but I feel like the royal family in general, that was such a difficult time, wasn't it? And I just felt like perhaps there were aspects of that they didn't handle very well. But we're not all perfect, are we? So it's not always been a love, this person is our everything. I do see that, at times where they have got it wrong. I felt they have got it wrong, but are constantly working to sort of turn that narrative around, and and has done so. I do remember, around that time where they weren't so popular, the royal family as a whole, and Charles and all this sort of stuff. But I don't know. It's just amazing, isn't it, that the fascination with the royal family is there. And you turn on the TV, and there's hundreds and thousands of people lining the streets. Especially in places like Edinburgh, where you have, despite all the wants for independence and the Republicans, and just the amount of respect that they were shown.
Even if they have independence, she'd still be there. Well, even if they have independence, though, Scotland, the current monarch will still be the monarch of Scotland, though.
Yeah.
So there is that, and I think Scottish people respect that she had Scottish heritage because of her mother, I think.
Oh yeah, she's
right.
Yeah.
And then
both sides. Apparently.
Both sides, yeah. But it's particularly because of her mum. But the thing is, it's that yesterday when they were talking about sort of Scotland, you realise that it kind of, regardless of the politics in Scotland, the royal family will still be there in Scotland no matter what happens. And it's kind of something that I've never really thought about or grasped, because you just think, if Scotland goes, whatever. But at the end of the day, it makes no difference to the royal family, because they'll still be whatever to Scotland as well. That's a strange thing. And again, that whole argument there exists in Scotland, whether to have a monarchy or not, just like it does in England.
Yeah.
Well, I think all these people who are actually crying about the Queen and putting flowers and all this kind of thing, it's how a person makes you feel. There's that saying that when a person is gone, right, the important thing is not what they gave you, that is how they made you feel. And I think people, for whatever reason, saw something in the Queen, like these people who are grieving and paying their respects, they saw something in the Queen and it made them feel a certain way. And that's okay, and that's quite a big deal. It's like, I've got pictures of Martha in my house. For people that don't know, I've had influences of Hinduism and Sikhism and Christianity in my life, and I've got family from all those religions. So I have, when I do puja and then I have a picture of Martha, it's like, do I really, and sorry for offending anyone, but do I really think there was a goddess riding a tiger? She had all these hands, things. I don't know, but for me, what that represents is the embodiment of female power. So do you get what I mean? So it's kind of like what you see in something and how that makes you feel, and the importance that a symbol has to you. So she was a symbol for many people for whatever reason. And I think that's the difference between knowing, not really knowing the Queen, but then she's a figurehead and okay, I respect her for that. And then how we're talking about queens in our lives, women that we look up to, we know them. We know their flaws, but we also
still love them.
Yeah, we still love them. And I think if I was to say, oh, these are these perfect women who I hold up in my life, no one is perfect. And as I'm growing older, I'm realizing, no, I'm not perfect. I'd want to be that person for my kids, and I'm trying to sort myself out so I can hopefully be that person for them that they look up to and think, oh, you know what, my mom will have it figured out and stuff. So I'm trying to work on myself to do that. But then, like you, Rummy, I've got people in my life like my mom always there, you know, when we need her and advice. Like my sisters, I'll call them for advice. You know, they're both very strong in their own way. You know, I've got Boaz who are very strong and just like very accomplished at certain things. So
I think I
yeah,
think we all have powerful women in our lives, and that we can all turn to. And I think just listening to you talking, I think with the Queen, it's the case of a powerful leadership skills without trying to be a leader. But she, I think leadership in terms of parliament, prime minister, president, but just leading by trying to do the right thing, like leading a country in a time of mourning, leading a time in a country in a time of joy, and that leading not in terms of telling you what to do, but just by being an example,
by being an example,
providing reassurance. She was that person in that sense. You don't take that from a prime minister, you don't take that from a president necessarily, because you don't know what walks of life they've been through and how whatever. But I don't know, like, you know, in COVID when she made that address, you know, those kinds of things that helped people. Whether it helped me or not, fine, I don't know, you know, but I know it helped other people, and I've got to appreciate that it did help other people, whether or not it helped me, whether I cared or not. You know, it's that kind of thing. If it helped other people, I've still got to appreciate that.
That's what I'm saying.
And
It's how it's the importance is on how she made people feel. And so people did feel strongly. But I'm even actually thinking, because I don't live that far from Windsor, like I'm actually thinking, oh, shall I take the kids? Like my husband won't come because he's just not into it. But shall I just not to the funeral like in the streets or anything, or to be like, oh, come on, kids, let's go and look at the Queen's coffin. I'm not going to do that. Fair enough if you are, right? But I'm not going to do that. But, you know, just to kind of go there, because we go there anyway all the time. It's like, let's just go look at the flowers and stuff, take it in a little bit. This is where the funeral's going to be, because this is a history, do you know what I mean? And they're going to grow up and think, oh, okay, at that time I was doing this and that. I went to the royal wedding with my dad as his +1.
oh yeah, you did,
As, you know, Harry and Meghan's wedding. And it's not like I was, you know, oh yeah, I have to go, please let me come or anything. It's not like that. But it was really nice going. And it was like, oh wow, you know, this is a historical thing. So, and we live in this country.
Yeah, but this is the thing. And this is, I mean, I did a webinar back in 2020, sorry, when COVID hit. And I was talking about this thing about, we can't deny our heritage. Like I just said earlier, I can't help that my parents were born in Kenya and that I'm born here, and it's my grandparents that were born in a pre-partition in India before pre-partition. I can't change any of that. I've got to do the best I can with that. And the thing is, sometimes you've got to recognize that sometimes now with the stuff that's going on in India, people who want to leave there because they feel unsafe, because of what we had, at least we're able to come here. And whether you're going to argue they're feeling safe there because of what the British did there once upon a time, if it wasn't going to be the British, it might be another empire taking over. You know, it was you know, you go back in history, you can sit here with hindsight and say so many things. I think our ancestors did the best that they could for us, and if it's ended up meaning that I'm born here in Britain, and I've just got to take responsibility for understanding both parts of my heritage, which is, well, 3 parts of my heritage, which is like pre-partition India and what's going on there, Kenyan and here. And the thing is, I'm born and raised here. So that's the one that I'm going to know the most, but it doesn't mean I ignore the rest either. And it's just like it's just harder for us to navigate, I think.
Yeah, it is. It's a bit
it's just harder for us to navigate, and there's conflicting feelings, but on a human level, all good.
Ladies, thank you so much, as always, for being part of this power panel on the Sisterhood of MummyImperfect. For people who have tuned in live and interacted with us, thank you. And like I said, this is the first one. Hopefully, we'll do more lives. I just thought I always kind of wanted to do it, and I thought, you know what, I don't quite know what I'm doing, but let's just jump in anyway. So anyway, thank you. And as usual, this podcast will be on all the podcast platforms and everything. Please do share this, subscribe if you haven't already, and thank you for listening. Until next time, bye.
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 Now I'm ending the broadcast.